Hello and welcome back to the GorillaBiker, and today what we're going to be doing is installing this motorcycle dash cam from Vantrue. This is called the F1 or the Falcon one. I got dislikes on the short when I made this because I tagged it hashtag F1, but that's what it's called. So full disclosure, Vantrue reached out to me and I thought it was a joke at first, but it wasn't. I dealt with a very nice lady called Denise. And they sent me this in order to install it and test it over at least a month. Now the nice thing is there is literally no obligation on me to say anything. They just want me, they actually didn't even ask me to install it. I offered to install it and offered to do a review after 1 month minimum. So that's what we're going to be doing. So well done Vantrue for not being like a lot of companies are and trying to write you a script, because I say no to those. So what the kit includes is a Vantrue unit, which has a little SD card slot that you have to open up with 2 little screws, a 4K camera for the front of the bike, a 1080p camera for the rear of the bike, a little controller unit that you can, you know, hang or tie or glue or stick around your handlebar area, and then everything else to connect it in between, just a couple of cables and whatever else. Now, it does come with a power connector that uses live, neutral, and also a switched live on it. However, my bike, the v-strom, did come with a Denali power hub under the seat, so I am going to use that. Now, what that does is it just means that all I have to do is connect positive and negative and put the fuse in the right place, and then I actually have a switched live. So that's what the Oxford heated grips in this bike and stuff run off, so that's what we're going to do. Now, so far I did a little bit of reconnaissance before I tried to fit this up, and the hardest thing is going to actually be deciding where to put the cameras. One little observation on the 4K camera here. One observation, as you can see, is there's no sticky left on the bottom of the 4K camera. It's because I did try stick this, and the sticker that came with the Vantrue, same as on the bottom of this one, the coverage on it's not great. So what I've actually decided to do is I'm going to stick a 3M VHB for GoPro onto the bottom of this, and I'm going to stick it to the bottom of the beak. More surface area is more better, as those that don't know media would say. Well, not about surface area, but you know. So that's what we're going to do. Now, I have already taken apart my bike a little bit in order to fit these up, because I don't want this to be about the removal of fairings off a v-strom. If you do want to see how to do that on the 2014 on v-strom, do let me know. It's pretty easy to disassemble, but you know, just in case people want to see, do let me know down in the comments, and we can do that. So for now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try locate these cameras off camera, because I don't think anyone needs to see that, and then post that we'll come back and we'll show you how I've routed everything and whatnot, and we'll go from there. So sorry about the change in quality, it's just actually easier to record on my phone to show you this. So I have everything routed, the rear camera temporarily, because I don't have a drill bit to fit that cable up the way I want. But here's the Vantrue unit. The 4 connectors are really straightforward to do, power and otherwise. I did connect the power in through the Denali power hub. Wires are good quality, easy to strip. You could definitely connect off the battery, negative and ground, and then just loop into, so this is for the actual Denali power hub that someone did previous to me. I want to clean this up a bit too, I don't really like how loose it is. But I could have tapped into here, or like they did, I could have tapped into something like that, but this is the Vantrue unit. I have it powered on and tested, and I have to say I'm really impressed with the camera quality in the garage, but you know, we have to test it. So what I did is using the provided 3M, stuck it to the rear of the bike here, just underneath the brake light, kind of offers a really good view. Like I said, this wire is the only one that is not permanent, because I did not have a drill bit to fit that the way I wanted. Other than that, the cables for the front camera and the controller I've routed up along here. Just took them out of the way and cable tied or zip tied, those, whatever term you want to use. Like I said, the power connectors are all into the Denali power hub, and I highly recommend getting something like the power hub. You can also get one that I have used before, a Heel Tech unit. I'll leave a link in the description, because I do really recommend that. And then the front camera is what I'm kind of most happy with. Oh, we'll get down here on the ground, kind of old. So the front camera I tucked in just under the beak. We finally found a use for the beak. I did use my own 3M VHB stuff for this because the other stuff wasn't that great. What I've also done is cable tied the cable here, so even if that does fail, the camera will only ever swing to like here, so it should not get damaged, just in case it does fall off. And then other than that, I've routed that cable up under there. Just hop back up. Kind of what I did was I followed some of the cables here and tagged onto them, and I followed that back. I popped off this tank cover, and also this cover here, and that's how I was able to route these cables along here. Actually quite straightforward on the v-strom. Apparently not as straightforward on other units. And I also located the controller here. The reason I put the controller here is because it does start auto recording when you turn on the bike and stuff, and I didn't want to be able to see it all the time when I was riding. So I'm kind of happy with it here because there's lights on it, so I didn't want to be looking at them all the time. The one thing I will say is the tape they gave you with the unit does not allow it to stick to this type of plastic, which, as people know, a lot of motorcycles are finished in this kind of roughened exterior plastic. So that maybe is something that they can think about for future iterations, is give something just a little bit stronger to stick to here. I probably will eventually relocate this to here. I left myself plenty of room. I just zip tied, cable tied on here to be able to move that. A couple of comments. So I understand this is for a lot of bikes, but I do think having variable cable lengths would be really helpful. These cables are very, very long. I've coiled them all up, tied them off, and put them in here as neat as I could. And I can tuck the Vantrue unit back in here now when I'm finished. But the cables are very, very long. Definitely too much cable. The only one I wouldn't say is too much cable is the rear camera. But the controller cable and the front camera, I do think has too much cable available for a bike like this. If you're going onto a bike with a lot more fairings, with a lot less space, and you have to route it funny, then maybe. But I think for standard bikes like these ones, there's slightly too much cable. Also, the supplied cable ties are already breaking just from me touching them. They're very weak. So I have my own ones. They're a bit thicker. These are obviously trimmed ones. I would recommend getting some of these. They're just a bit stronger and they'll do a better job in the long run for you. But other than that, let's get this turned on, and we can run through how it's set up and whatnot. So far, like I said, just really early indication. Very impressed with the camera, front and back quality wise, and looking forward to actually getting to use it out on the road for a month and a bit or whatever, and doing a review on this unit, because honestly, out of the box and to set it up, so far so good. Installation was not that bad. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention, the Vantrue instructions manual. It's pretty good. Some bits are not translated so well, so just be aware of that. I am editing and I just realized I forgot to mention the cables. The yellow is not actually the switched live, the red is a switched live, which is really confusing, and I'm going to send Vantrue an email on it. Generally yellow would be your switched live. But because the yellow has the fuse on it, I am assuming it is correctly labeled. They did have them labeled that's the cable that's supposed to go to the battery. So just to let you all know that too. But other than that, I mean, okay, the translation isn't fantastic, but definitely perfectly understandable. So do have a read through this as well if you do get it and you want to install it. Not bad instructions. As instructions go, these are actually pretty clear. So yeah, well done, Vantrue. Okay, so if like me you managed to install this correctly, we're going to turn on the ignition of the bike. You'll hear the camera boot up. That's the camera booting up, and it'll start recording. Probably, hopefully.
Start video recording.
There it is. Okay, so it started recording and turned on Wi-Fi. So now we're going to open up the app. This is the Vantrue app. It's on both app stores. I'm going to hit I've connected to this before. It looks for it every single time. So what I do is I press back, and then I connect to Vantrue. Now we are connected. So this is the rear camera here, and this is the front camera here. So you have everything on the app. But I suppose what's interesting to people is the settings. So you can turn it when you go into settings, it does stop recording. So you can sync your phone time, English, change your Wi-Fi, change your Wi-Fi password, which I did. The initial password is 123456. You can change video to 2-in-1 instead of having 2 videos. Loop recording for 5 minutes, and you can also set like your G sensors and whatever else. So right now mine are all on 3, and I do need to adjust that because if you've number plate recognition, like it's actually a pretty impressive amount of stuff. Now one thing that Vantrue did ask me to mention is format SD card down here, which I'm not going to press because I want to show you some clips. But format SD card, they do recommend pressing at least once a week, and I'll show you how to do that off the camera control unit itself. You don't need to use the app. Let's go back. So we'll go into the photo library here, or the video library. So right now this is taking the clips from just now. These are the normal ones, but if I hit event, this thinks they're events because of how do you put it? The G senses essentially. So, but if we go in here, we should have volume. So there is a mic on this guy, and as you can see, there's the video playback. Now I'll put clips up on screen too, but the front camera is actually pretty impressive from a quality standpoint so far. But I'll do a full review on this when I get to use it more. Now obviously I would recommend not doing this with your bike turned on. You'll eventually kill your battery, but just to show you, hey, get back up there. These are the buttons. So this is the power on and off here. This is the video record button, and this is your Wi-Fi button. So if you press it, it's supposed to turn the Wi-Fi on and off. Or is that? Yeah, there's the Wi-Fi one.
Start video recording. Voice recording off.
So that's the voice recording off.
Voice recording off.
Voice recording on. That's basically just your microphone. That's your record button, and this is your on off. Now if you hold down the record button, which we'll do now,
Formatting memory card.
you hold that button down and it will format the memory card.
Formatting successfully.
So that's your memory card formatted. So you will by now have seen the clips, the actual units themselves, how to plug them in. Like I said, the only thing that's slightly complicated is the power. I think the app is quite good. I've had no issues with the functionality so far, but again, I will report back in at least another month to 6 weeks of use to see do any gremlins show up. But very impressed so far. Like I said, installation was easy, literally just plug and play. It really is plug and play. I'll put the price of the unit on screen now. Again, I did get sponsored this. Would I have bought one? I'll let you know later in the review. Do I think it's worth it? I do think dash cams are quite a good idea in today's day and age, especially if you are involved in an accident. They didn't ask me to say that or anything. They literally asked me to say nothing, other than the format the SD card thing. But the controls are easy to use. So far, very functional. It has been in the rain. It hasn't affected it at all. Twice in the rain. But yeah, so from an installation perspective, I give it a thumbs up. The only two things, like I said, that kind of take away for it is definitely cable length can get a little bit finicky, a little bit bothersome, and also those cable ties. I mean, just put in some good cable ties. I just got heavier duty ones because I have them anyway, but definitely would recommend getting some heavier duty cable ties for sure while you're installing this, and of course your double-sided 3M VHB tape. Just for that extra peace of mind. I mean, their adhesive might work fine. Maybe I just didn't clean the surface enough for the front camera. I'm still a lot happier that I have my personal 3M VHB tape on there. You know what I'm saying? I just think it's a little bit more firm, strong. But yeah, other than that, honestly, installation, like I said, pretty easy. An initial startup and setup is also pretty easy. I would recommend downloading that app and setting it up from there. Honestly, the out of the box settings, I've pretty much left it there. The only thing was the loop recording was set to 1 minute. I changed the loop recording to 5 minutes. But other than that, I have left them as separate files. 4K on the front, 1080p on the back. Yeah, and I mean, other than that, from an installation perspective, I still do give it a thumbs up. It's actually, I was surprised. Definitely, if you have a bike that doesn't have as much space as the v-strom, those cables especially would have been bad. If I was to try and install that on the CBF 1000 that I used to have, that would have been much harder because it does not have the same trunk space as the v-strom did for hiding all those cables. And even just being able to sit the Vantrue unit itself in there was also definitely easier. So that's something to bear in mind, space constraints. If you buy the kit as is, those cables take up a huge amount of room. They really do. There's a lot of cable there, and you can't cut that cable and resize it, so bear that in mind. But yeah, like I said, other than that, thumbs up. If you've watched, thank you very much for watching. If you have any questions on the install of this unit at all, let me know down in the comments. I'm here to help. If you do purchase one, especially if you purchase one because you watch this video, I will not leave you hanging. I will answer anything I can. Like I said, bear in mind you will have to wire into a switched live, so I do recommend a Heeltech Thunderbox. It's the one I've used, it's the one I've bought with my own money, and I will buy one again. I would have bought one for this bike, only it came with the Denali Power Hub. Look up reviews for it. My one works fine, but there are a lot of unhappy customers out there on the Denali Power Hub, so fair warning. If I had read those reviews, I probably wouldn't purchase one again. Yeah, I don't think there's anything else really to cover. So, as always, a very special thank you to my patrons. If it was not for my patrons, I don't think I would have agreed to take this unit. I did consult with them before agreeing to it, and they have read the email, so they know that I literally did say, I'll say whatever I like. And Vantrue, to their credit, said no problem and sent the unit anyway. So, there it is. I will leave a link to the unit in the description. Again, not because they asked me to, just because I'm sure some people will want to have a look at it. All pricing and information is on there. And yeah, thanks again to my patrons. Thanks again to all of you guys who've made it this far. And until next time, thank you again for watching. Adios. Outro crew, what do you think of the concept of a dash cam? Up until recent years, I definitely would never have considered it. But definitely when I commute, I had been running like my 360 cam as a kind of an impromptu dash cam, or I just have my GoPro on and I'd have it running. So having something that I don't actually have to set up, I don't have to worry about, you know, making sure I don't accidentally delete the video or whatever else. It's just there. It saves the event. It saves the event data. It's there if I need it. It's actually kind of nice, especially if you use your bike to commute, and I commute on this almost every single day. You know, 80 miles a day total. So it is definitely a nice to have, especially with the microphone. You know, say you get pulled over, say there's some contention between you and a police officer, it's all recorded on your voice. So let me know, would you use a dash cam on your bike? Yeah, thanks outro crew.